Hello, everyone. Trey from the Continental Steel Strand Pulling Association here. I hope your training is going well. I know mine is. So far, the feedback on my chest expander content has been super positive. Most, if not all of you, want to see more content. So, like and subscribe. Do the usual stuff. Much appreciated. Thank you in advance. And please do me a favor and go join the Strand Pulling Powerhouse group on Facebook. If you're on Facebook, that is an amazing resource. All those people are awesome, growing community, very fun to join. However, some of you have shared with me some skepticism related to chest expander training. And the primary claim is that solely using the chest expander is not enough, that you need other forms of training to build strength and muscle size. Honestly, that's fair, since most of the legends I mentioned in previous videos, such as Reg Park, John Grimmick, Chuck Sipes, and Fred Rollon, did not build their muscle and strength using strand pulling alone. Plus, John Grimmick did mention their limitation in that they are best used in conjunction with weights, which I do agree with. It's while reading the Big Chest book by Bob Hoffman for our Chest Expanders a Gimmick item video that I first came across the man who rebuilt his strength and muscle using the chest expander. So on page 193, we see Jack pictured with the caption, quote, Jack Reid of Miami Beach, Florida, was a victim of infantile paralysis. He spent long years with his legs in braces. His weight was only 120 pounds when he seriously started at a progressive training program. Most of the results he received, developing himself to splendid physique shown here and a body weight of 185 pounds, resulted from the use of cables. When such effects have been obtained by the legions of men who started with physical handicaps, it certainly should make any normal men who do not build their bodies ashamed of themselves, don't you think? Unquote. Yeah, they used guilt back in the day. What do you think of that? I had to find out more, so I started researching. Here's what I found. And all the info you hear from me comes from the Strength and Health December 1939 issue, The Man Who Licked Infantile Paralysis. And back in the day, licked meant bested or beat. Additional info on this video comes from the Roy H. Noe Exerciser Flyer from 1940, and Jack Reid, A Pure Play on Cable Training by Brad Reid from Milo Volume 8, Issue Number 2, and also the internet article, quote, A Primer on Cable Training by Brad Reid. So Jack Reid was born in 1919. From all accounts, he was an active and healthy kid. Here is a quote from the Strength and Health article. The Riverside Military Academy back in 1934 had on its boxing team a veteran of 2 years' experience. At that time, he was 5'9", and weighing in barely under the lightweight limit of 135 for 15-year-old Jack Reid. He was considered very promising. And that was a quote from the Strength and Health December 1939 issue, The Man Who Licked Infantile Paralysis, on page 22. Then tragedy struck as he was hit with a case of polio, and it caused him to have related paralysis. Quote, in Jack's case, the polio compromised his legs. His left in particular would suffer a brace for the remainder of his life, and his right was only marginally less damaged. So a healthy athletic teenager who loved to run, wrestle, and box, and one who had been also a star academic talent at Riverside Military Academy, unfortunately found himself withering away and nicked out of school. Unquote. And that was from Jack Reid, A Pure Play on Cable Training by Brad Reid from Milo Volume 8, Issue 2, page 52. 9 months after the polio paralysis, he went from 135 to 102 pounds and wheelchair bound. Could you imagine? Now, I need to take a tangent from Jack's story real quick to describe how much of a predicament he was in. Most medical authorities at the time discouraged any form of weight training or resistance training, as this could lead to being, quote, muscle bound, whatever that means. And if you were suffering from any severe ailment like Jack was, well, forget about it. They would just have advised him to take it easy for the rest of his life, to never strain yourself, or just you would face calamity. And also, weight training, as it was taught back then, is just not what it is today. Gym machines, we don't have the Nautilus machines like we would have. They only came around in the 1960s. Benches and squat racks didn't exist yet, or if they did, they weren't common. Most, if not all, the training was done with a barbell or dumbbell standing up. So bodybuilding exercises were not in vogue. So all weight training was Olympic weightlifting. And that includes the snatch, clean and press, clean and jerk with some accessory exercises like deadlifts, bicep curls, bent over rows. Some trainers might have included calisthenics or hand balancing. But if you were a teenager and you wanted to lift weights, you would have been taught to do Olympic weightlifting, period. That way of training requires a lot of lower body strength and mobility, which Jack had none due to his paralysis. So for him, now what? And his doctor at the time was a proponent of physical culture and advised Jack to use an Earl Leiderman chest expander and used his course. The young teenager started training again. As I said in the past, training with the chest expander does not require strength to hold the handles. Also, its light to medium weight would have been too much for Jack. He did progress at first, but his real progress came when he got the Roy H. Noe rubber chest expander. And these came in the following resistances. There's a regular band number 1 at 27 pounds, number 2 at 35 pounds, number 3, 57 pounds, number 4, 79 pounds, and a special Super Samson red rubber band, which was 169 pounds. After 6 weeks of expander training, he gained 20 pounds and was gaining back some strength. I'll show you a picture here. After 3.5 years of chest expander training, his measurements were as follows. His weight was 186 pounds. His chest was 46 inches. Waist at 29 inches. Neck 17 inches. Bicep 16 inches. And his forearms were 14 and 1/4 inches. This was achieved predominantly with chest expander alone. The Strength and Health article does mention that he did try to train with weights at multiple times during this 3.5 years training. However, each attempt resulted in failure or pain since his legs, lower back, and part of his spine could not support the extra axial load. He was able to walk, and that was pretty much it. So he made do with the situation and strand pulled like there was no tomorrow. He gained sufficient strength in his upper body that by the age of 20 years old, quote, he was able to do 5 one-arm chins and was expected to do 7 soon. In 1940, and that he was able to chin with one arm while holding a 50-pound weight in his non-chinning hand. He was also chinning with his 2 little fingers and doing handstand presses off a box. For 10 to 12 reps, handstands on his index fingers and thumbs, unquote. Jack Reid, A Pure Play on Cable Training by Brad Reid from Milo Volume 8, Issue 2, page 54 to 55. On his hand balancing, quote, he had to tie his worst leg to the other to keep it in place when upside down, unquote. I was thinking the exact same thing when I was researching this, because I was like, where is he going to put where was his legs going to go? And that was from the Strength and Health, December 1939 issue, page 44. By the early 1940s, he started selling the Roy H. Noe chest expander. By then, he had gained even more weight. So his 1940 stats, his weight jumped up to 205 pounds, up by 20 pounds previously. And the following dimensions were taken cold. So his chest was 49 by that time, waist was 30, biceps 17, neck 17 and a half, and forearms 14 and a half. Great gains. Now you might be asking, how strong was Jack Reid compared to others? In May 1940, issue of Strength and Health, Gord Venables wrote a column called, quote, Cable Corner. In it, he states that John Grimmick performed a front pull-apart with 8 steel York super spring cables, whereas Jack managed to do a front pull-apart of 10 York super spring cables. I've read on strand pulling forums that the York super steel string super cables were rated at 10 kilograms each. So a 100 kilogram, 220 pounds, front pull apart for 1 rep is on par with what Jack was able to do. Considering at the time he was using special Super Samson Reid rubber bands at 169 tension for all his sets and reps. This feat of strength is remarkable, since John Grimmick at the time was one of the strongest men in America and possibly the world. At the Senior National, held at the same year the article was written, 1940, John Grimmick cleaned and pressed 285 pounds, which means he took it from the floor, brought it to his shoulders, and in one movement, strict form pressed it overhead, no back bend. He snatched 250 and clean and jerked 325 pounds. And later that evening, he even won the Mr. America contest. So that puts it in comparison to how Jack was so strong. And Jack, at his best, in his prime, his handstand presses chest to box was 18 reps. He could do 1-finger chins, either hand, any finger. He had a seated press because he couldn't use his legs, remember? With 11 reps, pressing at 278 pounds. A seated one-arm press of 140 pounds. A barbell press from support, 285. One-arm chin, 7 reps with either hand. One-arm chinning holding 50 pounds weight in his non-chinning hand. And this information is from Jack Reid, a peer play on cable training by Brad Reid from Milo, Volume 8, Issue 2, page 56. Just so you can see how well he's developed in his upper body, that's him next to 1940 Mr. America contender, Dave Asnes. And that's the contest that John Grimmick won. And there's Jack on the right. So how did he train? In his prime years, he would train 4 to 5 times a week using 3 sets of 6 to 8 reps when he trained for strength. He sometimes did 20 reps per set, and his diet consisted of rare meats, fish, and fresh vegetables. Jack died in 1991 at the age of 72. And there we have it, folks. You absolutely can build tremendous amount of strength along with muscular development with the chest expander. Appreciate you guys' time and watching the video. I will see you guys next time.